Until now, clear-cutting was the only harvesting activity that we have considered within FPS ATLAS. FPS ATLAS can apply 5 basic treatments to polygons, and 3 of these treatments, thinning, clear-cut and partial cut, generate harvest volumes, while 2 treatments, the succession and rehabilitation, do not. There are important differences in how FPS applies these various treatments, and this tutorial applies a partial cut harvest as an example how silvicultural treatments can be simulated. If you are using your own database rather than the one that I provided for download on the course website, make sure that at this stage you create a copy of your database and rename it. The reason for this is that we will be making substantial changes to the stand groups and it is not possible to undo them. So first of all, we will be opening our rule set editor, and then we will delete all the rules that we have created so far except the minimum old serial. Next, we create a new rule set and we name it partial cut. Make sure that distance is set as default harvesting priority parameter. Now we copy the harvest flow targets from our minimum old serial rule set into our new rule set. And we apply the no harvest constraint to our reserve zone. As well as the adjacency constraint to our axis unit 1. To describe the silvicultural treatments that we apply to polygons, we can use stand groups. Stand groups are linked to the volume age curves. Select File and then New and create a new stand group. The new stand group window will appear, which looks something like this, and you can see the 5 treatments that FPS ATLAS can apply to polygons listed here on the left. We name our new stand group partial cut. Now we select the age window, which has already been done here. We select the partial cut treatment and apply a minimum age of 180 years and a maximum age of 999 years. These age limits are set to ensure that the partial cut is applied within a period that is consistent with the associated yield curve. We will discuss this in a bit more detail in tutorial number 9. Now select the Go to Stand Group tab, the second to the left of Age window. Notice that once again you see the 5 treatments listed that FPS ATLAS offers, and partial cut should already be selected. The box to the right of this should say Myself, indicating that after a polygon has been harvested, it will be returned to the same stand group, so it will go to Partial Cut Stand Group again. Now select the Treatment Values tab. Once again, notice that there are 3 conditions, each associated with the specific treatment that FPS ATLAS offers. Set the residual growing stock to 351 cubic meters per hectare. Partial cut stands may now be harvested so long as a residual growing stock of 351 cubic meter per hectare is retained. This level of residual growing stock is based on an arbitrary objective of maintaining mule deer winter range. Guidelines indicate that 70% and 90% of growing stock should be maintained in partial harvests within mule deer winter ranges. The lower bounds being appropriate when there is a high proportion of suitable winter habitat, the higher bounds being appropriate when there is only a small area of suitable winter habitat available. FPS ATLAS applies partial cuts if a polygon is 100 years or older, and it is harvested down to the residual growing stock of 351 cubic meters per hectare as we set it in the Treatment Values tab. After harvest, the new stand age is set to the age where the residual growing stock occurs on the volume age curve, in this example 130 years. In this example, every 50 years, 74 cubic meters per hectare are harvested and the age of the polygon cycles between 180 and 130 years. Last but not least, we have to check the Ignore Adjacency box, and then we move on to the Curves tab. Notice that there are two options, Age and Clear Cut Equivalent. Click on the drop-down arrow at the right of the Age box and select Partial Cut from the list that appears. We leave the CCE box blank. Now select the Constraints tab and ensure that no constraints are selected for this specific stand group. Close and accept the new Partial Cut stand group. Currently, we do not carry out partial cuts on any of the stands. To confirm this, open the viewer. Now, from the legend on the left, select Stand Group and expand the legend further. You can see here that partial cuts have been added to the legend, and you can see in the overview window that no polygons are actually colored the according color, so no polygons are assigned to the partial cuts. To apply partial cuts to specific polygons, their stand group must be changed to Partial Cut Stand Group, and we can do that by going to the browser window and clicking on Stand Groups. Now in this example, we will change the existing stand group number 1 fur into a partial cut system. Double-click onto stand group 1 fur and the according window will open. Now we select partial in the Age tab and just like before, write 180 years as a minimum and 990 years as a maximum into the according cells. In the Go to Stand Group window, you have to select Partial and then from the drop-down menu select Partial Cut to make sure that whenever a polygon belonging to Stand Group 1 fur is partially cut, it will be moved into the Stand Group Partial Cut. Doing this will ensure that the grow and yield volume according to the partial cut growth and yield curve will be applied to the according polygons following the first partial cut. You can right-click on the partial cut and open the according stand group by clicking it with the left mouse click. Check that the Values tab shows the residual growing stock of 351 cubic meters per hectare and that the Ignore Adjacency box is checked. Now close the partial cut window. In the first stand group window, select Treatment Values. Enter 551 as the residual growing stock and check the Ignore Adjacency tab as well. Select the Curves tab and in the Age box, select the Partial Cut curve. Leave the other box blank. Now closing the stand group window once again will save our changes. We are now ready to carry out our first run. And after doing so, confirm that stand group 1 fur was replaced by the partial cut stand group. To do so, we open the viewer window, drag one of the years over to the viewer window, and once again open the according legend on the left. And when now moving through the periods, you can see how partial cut polygons appear on the map. In your viewer window, you can now select Attribute, Output Only, and from Output Only list you select Treatment State. When cycling through the polygons using this specific view, you can observe which polygons are clear-cut, partially cut, and which are those that continue to grow undisturbed. Finally, set the attribute to Age in the Viewer control and expand the format tree near the top of the viewer control to check the text box. As you cycle through the periods in this view, you will see that when stands that have to be partially cut reach 180 years of age, the age is reset to 130 years.